What's up, y'all? Y'all are listening to Living Corporate's flagship podcast. If you didn't know, Living Corporate helps organizations build employee engagement and market trust through data analytics and data transformation, our e-learning platform, and brand marketing storytelling. We're so excited for you to be here today. The conversation you're about to hear is going to connect the dots between employee experience and go-to-market effectiveness. If you're not ready, get ready. Here we go. What's up, y'all? It's Zach with Living Corporate, and I'm here, solo episode today, no interview, not because we ain't got them. I'm going to be honest with you. We're sitting on like 10 of them. But I wanted to break up the monotony for a second and just come back to you. A couple weeks ago, I talked to y'all about how to not quit your job, right? And I was talking about my journey when I worked as an HR manager at Target and the experience I had, and working in a place that was not really built for me, not meant for me, did not honor or respect my influence, my intelligence, my giftedness, my skill set, my interests. It didn't honor my economic needs. It just was not a fit. And yet, despite all of these very rational reasons to quit and quit well, I decided to quit poorly. And by quit poorly, I mean I did not document and escalate and make a point to let folks know that I was being mistreated, right? But what it did do, what that situation, what that experience helped me with, was how to quit better in the future. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the next job that I decided to quit. So it's interesting, right? Like, I pivot from being this HR manager at a big box retail shop to then working for an oil and gas company, and was there for a while, and really enjoyed my time. It was actually at this company that I learned to stop code switching, right? And so that'll be a podcast for another day. Like, I learned in this position that there's nothing you can really do to outperform white supremacy. There's nothing you can do to stop or to pause or ameliorate folks' negative perception of your own blackness. There's nothing you can do to curtail or make people forget that you are black. There's nothing you can do. So you might as well just be yourself and allow whatever consequences come from your own authenticity. That's what I learned from this particular gig. But again, that's a podcast for another day. I didn't have a chance to quit this particular job because that company, that energy company, was acquired. And so then I was a contractor for this job. And so what happened was all the contractors got, their contracts got ended, right? So I was technically laid off, but again, it was more of a, hey, we're not doing any contracts anymore, because part of acquisition is we got to cut all these people that are not salaried employees, and we're cutting salaried employees, right? So anyway, the job after that, I was an HR business partner for this pharmaceutical startup company out in Bel Air, which is in Houston. But I was working at this company. It was called Health Scripts. And Health Scripts was an interesting place because it was really like just 13 guys, all with like various backgrounds in health or healthcare, who came together to like build out this physician-owned pharmacy model where pharmacists would get like a back cut of any drugs that they decided to prescribe. It was very, very shady, like in hindsight. And like, I want to say this was like it was like 2013, 2014. And so at this point in time, that, like, I want to say now, like, even that model is illegal, right? Like, we can link in the show notes. You want to learn more about that. I don't know, like, you can look it up if you go. But the point is, it was a shady little business. However, what they did was they hired some people who were actually on the up and up to give it the veneer of professionalism, right? And so one of the people that they hired was a black man, and I'm not going to say his name, but he is a mentor of mine. He's actually Quiz. He was actually one of the first guests we had on Living Corporate. What was that? 8 years ago. So 7, 8 years ago. So if you want to go back to like one of the first pods, you'll find out who this person is I'm talking about. But anyway, I was excited because this person was a black man. I never had a black boss before. I'm super excited about this person, right? I'm super excited about, like, this guy is a New York Times bestseller. He worked at some of the largest tech companies on the planet. Brilliant, very impressive profile and resume. I mean, and I got the job, right? And we got along immediately. Like, that was my man immediately. Like, we were super cool. And I remember now, this person, he's like 6'5". I'm 6'2". He's a he's a big dude. He was a power forward in college. So he has presence, right? And I remember he and I are working, and we're in the hallway talking about work. And somebody walked by and said, "Wow, it's looking like the Planet of the Apes around here." Talking about me and my black boss. And I remember I looked at him, my boss, and then he looked at me, and then we looked at this person, and they just walked away. And I was like, what is that about? And it was like, over time, what I realized was that, like, people around us were openly growing increasingly uncomfortable with the idea that there were two black men in the office in this company working together and working on really important things. I was an HR business partner. He was the chief people officer and the chief operations officer at the same time. He held two senior titles, or rather, he was those, at least in function. I think he was a VP. Everybody else was a chief officer. Again, guys, this is a small little startup. Everybody's putting out whatever titles. Nothing really matters. But they didn't like the fact that he wanted to call himself a chief anything. So he just ended up being a VP, even though he's the one who had the most experience. So continuing on with the story, the owner, the person who owned the majority shares in this company, was a racist. He's the one who made the Planet of the Apes comment, and I came out to find later that he was always go back to my boss and say, "You need to fire Zach. Get him out of here. Fire him. I hate him. Get him out of here." He tried to be very intimidating, and, like, I'm gonna say, I've been told now that I'm a little bit older, that I don't come across like I'm confrontational, but I'm also not backing down either, and that's true. I don't really have a lot of back down in me. And it's interesting when you meet people who don't have back down. When bullies meet people who don't have back down, they get upset because bullies want you to back down. But when you show up and it's obvious that you're not going to back down, then they don't really have much other recourse. They don't have much other recourse other than to actually put up or shut up. And oftentimes with me, people would just shut up. Nobody's really trying to bully me for real because I don't have no back down and I'm a big dude. So it's not, y'all ain't about to do nothing. That's how I've dealt with workplace bullies, y'all. Anyway, again, another pod for another day. So this person who is making these racist comments finally one day is talking about his time in special forces because he was in the military. So he claimed. And he pulls out a knife. He pulls out a Bowie knife. And he grabs my boss and puts the knife to his throat. And says, "I could kill you if I wanted to right now." And now I saw this walking by. So I'm walking by the office when this happens. I see the back half of it, and then I see him let him go. And he kind of laughs it off like they playing. But they weren't playing. He was not playing. And my boss didn't find it funny, right? So we end up having more and more conversations about what's happening. And how we're being treated, how he's being treated, how I feel uncomfortable, how I am frustrated. And long story less long, they decide to fire my boss. They accuse him of some type of financial fraud. And they then pull me aside and say, "Look, we could fire you along with your boss, with your friend here. Or you could play ball, sign this paperwork saying that you're not going to sue us, saying that you never saw anything that you saw or heard anything that you heard. And we'll give you a $15,000 raise. We'll give you $30,000 in cash, and we'll give you a new title," right? I told them, "Hey, I need some time to think," right? Because they fired my boss in front of me, right? They fired my boss in front of me. Then they came to my office and told me all this, gave me the paperwork. and wanted me to sign it right there in front of them. And I said, hey, I can't sign this right now. I am really shocked. I think I need the rest of the day just to think about it. I leave that office. I don't go back to that company, right? And I'm at home looking to take my PTO. They deny me my PTO. They then accuse me of stealing when I decided not to come back to the office. Then, after 3 days, they said I had abandoned my job, despite the fact that I had PTO. And they told me I had one more day to come into the office or otherwise I'd be fired. And so again, y'all, I'm thinking about how I quit my job the first time. And so now I had an opportunity to quit my job a little bit better the second time. And so instead of kind of slinking away and like letting them put whatever narrative they wanted about me abandoning my job or stealing or whatever the case is, I decided to pull their entire email list of investors and clients, and I put them on the CC line to the owners. And I detailed all of my experiences with Health Scripts. And I talked to them about how I was mistreated and the slurs I was called and the violence that I saw and the laundering that I saw and the financial reports that didn't make sense because they asked me to put together these different headcount reports and costs and analysis and things of that nature. And it showed folks embezzling money. I decided to write all of that out in an email. And that was my resignation email. And Health Scripts closed about a few days after that. They stopped being in business shortly after. I want to say maybe like another month or so. But I remember they closed their doors a couple days later, but then it stopped existing a couple months after that, a month or two after that. And I was proud of that because I think so often we are encouraged and told to hold our chips, right? Hold our cards being our voice, as if there's this opportune time to advocate for yourself, or there's an opportune time to not be tolerant of dehumanization or abuse. And the truth of the matter is the best time to advocate for yourself is right now. Time is not promised to nobody, and no one's going to care more about you than you. It's important. It's just important to use your voice and speak up. And I'm going to say this, like, it's easy, I think, for folks, like, and it's so often, and I've shared this before in some conversations we've had recently on Living Corporate, and going back to that whole cards thing. A lot of folks frame cowardice as being strategic, but cowardice is not strategy. It's just cowardice. And it doesn't mean that you just say whatever you want to say, whenever you want to say it, however you want to say it. But it also doesn't mean that you mute and shrink yourself either. And I think a lot of times, like baby boomer black folks, like I've been coached, right, by folks who are significantly older than me that look like me to just be quiet and just wait it out. Don't say anything. But then I meet these same people and like they let all these opportunities pass where they could have spoken up and maybe something could have changed and could have happened. And so y'all, like, I'm just never going to be that person to discourage honesty, to discourage truth telling, to discourage self-advocacy. You have you. There's very few people in your world, right? Like, I can think of only like maybe 2 people, 3 people in my world who love me just as much as, if not more than I love me, right? That's my wife. That's my mom. It's my dad, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's human nature. People are going to take care of themselves. You have to take care of you. And even when it's scary, you have to speak up for yourself. And so, that's the story of when my the CEO at a startup put a knife to my boss's throat, and the story of when I decided to quit and quit a little bit better than the last time. Now, this next story I'm gonna tell y'all again next week. Again, like we'll come back, right? It's a little series, right? Little informal series. Next week I'm gonna talk to y'all about this time. I think I quit pretty well as well. I was told I was too strategic. We'll talk about that though next time. All right, listen. This market is crazy. Work is crazy. Continue to take care of yourselves. Take care of the person next to you. I love y'all. Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.